Hello, everybody. Thank you for attending today's event. My name is Fernando Xavier. I'm a software developer at BAASS, and today we're going to be talking about web reports. So let me just close my webcam here so we can focus on what's important. So web reports. Web reports is a BAASS tool. It's a web application that we have developed at BAASS that reads data from your database. It processes that data, and it is intended to display the data in the format that is most useful to the client. At BAASS, our team developed useful reports that comes out of the box when we install this tool. Again, this is a web application that is installed on your server, and once installed, you only need to you don't need to access anything on your local computer. You can just access that through your web browser. All those reports that we create, they are very flexible and easy to customize depending on your needs. So if you do require something different from what we provide out of the box, you have the ability to change it or we can help you change however you need. Now, creating reports is also very easy, and we have configuration screens that help you create the reports to help you. Our tool has the ability to create reports for a single company. So if you have only one company in Sage, we can create reports on that. And we can also create reports based on multiple companies. So if you would want a report that shows data from 2 different companies, that would be possible as well with our tool. The web reports is secure with permissions, and only assigned users can see those reports. You can pick and choose the users that can see those reports, because we do understand that we're talking about sensitive data here. So for this first example, let me show you. So those are the reports that I have access here for this user. And once I execute one of my reports, the first thing that happens is a list of parameters that the application displays. Those parameters are configured, and they can be from different types. So for example, this is a list checked by year, but this could also be a date picker or time picker or a open text. So when you define those parameters that you want, you would search your data. And this report here is a simple report based on the checks that were printed by year and by employee, and you can see the totals in here. So the report here is displayed on a smart grid. And with this smart grid, you can do a lot of things to filter down your data or to slice and dice your data however you would want to see. So basic functionalities of this grid includes like rearranging columns. You want to see columns in different places from what it was originally created, or you can sort ascending or descending your data however you want. You can remove columns from the grid if you don't think they are useful to you, and you can filter down by any of those columns that you have here. So if I would want only to see data from 2019, I could come here and filter my data. With this smart grid, you can also group your data. So for example, I want to group my data based on my checks, check year. So here the data is presented that my check year 2019, I have 2 records in here, and 2020, I have those other records in here. And note that our aggregation here works based on which column that you would want to configure. So we configure for all those dollar amounts in here. So we have for the 2019, the aggregations in here. And for the 2020 group, we also have it here. And for finally the total, we have at the bottom. Once you configure this grid, again, however you would want, you can, let's say that this reports you're going to execute on a weekly base or on a monthly base. And the only important information here for you would be birthday. We're going to remove some columns here because, you know, for this example, we don't think that's important. So I have configured my grid. However, I think it's most optimal for my user to see. So every month or every week, I'm going to come here. I want to see my report this way. So you would come and have to rearrange all those group again, remove columns. So what we did to help our clients is we create preferences here. So if I create my preference, so now every time that I come to my report and every time that I run my report, that report is going to be configured in the way that I configured the last time. So here, this is the way that I want to see my report, and I think this is the best way for my user to see this report. So you can configure your preferences, and you can have many preferences, right? Different preferences based on what you want to do. With that grid in the way that you would want, you can also, now that you have your data, you may want to export that to Excel. And that Excel export is going to preserve the configuration that you put here to your grid. So if I would show you this, here is my data in the same way that my grid was configured. You could also, now that you have this data here, you could also want to see some graphs out of it. So we have here a bar by inline charts. So if I would want to see a pie chart based on my check year and my data would be a gross pay with the check year, we could, you know, show you a graph or a pie chart in this situation. It all depends on the data that you have here. So those graphs work accordingly. For the next example, I have here employee birthday list. Very, very simple, straightforward. In this situation, there is no parameters because, you know, we don't need parameters for a simple query. So the grid gets executed right away. Another functionality that we have here is you can create your template to export this data to a PDF, for example. So you would create your header that would contain an image of your logo and company name, address, and so on and so forth, and your footer as well. So I have created here again a very very simple example. So if I export the data, I have here my header, my data that was on the grid, and then my footer that I didn't put anything, but so you can have this as a PDF and then send to. Another example that I would like to show is the register detail. In this situation here, as I said before, we have parameters and parameters are from different type. So in this situation, we have a date picker here where you can select your range. Once you have selected your range, if there is data on that range, it would show, but since there's no data on this range, let me fix it here, put a broader range. And here we have all the data. In this report, we're just showing the employee in check. This is a header detail report where we have the employee, the check date, and we have all the earnings and deductions that happen for that report, for that employee in check. So in here, we are repeating the header, which is this information here. We are repeating this in order to be able to show you the detail. Now, you can also come here to help you visualize that data and group by your employee, group by your check date, and you could also group by sort code, which you would see, okay, for this employee, for this check date, I have those earning codes, and you can easily visualize those amounts that got paid on that check. So you can see you have your earnings here, you have your deductions and accruals and so on. Now, note that this is one way, and then now you can create your preference and come here every week or every pay period and see your data in this format. Now notice that you had to do some work to group those data in the way that you want. Now for the next example, I'm going to display to show you the same data, but on a different format. So just to show how flexible the tool is and how it can help you generate the best result for you. So if we execute this query, again, it's the same report in different formats. So I'm just gonna create a bigger range here. So in this situation, we are not repeating the headers anymore. So we have the employee, the check date, and we have the amount of the check here. Now, in this situation, what you can do to see your details is to open up the report, and you're gonna see all the children or the details of this check here. And again, you can do the same situations as you did before. So I want now to group by sort code, and then you would see your earnings and your deductions. This is just to show you there are multiple ways to create and configure your report, and the web reports is very flexible to configure your report in the way that you need to see it. So we saw that the web reports is a tool that creates reports, and those reports can be seen in different places and in different formats. So you can see your formats as a export or as a graph, but you can also see those reports in different places, right? So we integrated here the web reports with our dashboard. So what you see here is the same reports that we saw on the other page, but on your dashboard and your landing page. You can create dashboards with a simple drag and drop. So you're just gonna drag and drop those widgets on your dashboard. You can place those tiles and widgets anywhere that you want on your page. You can freely design this page. And those dashboards are secured with permission as well. So certain people would see this dashboard and other people would not see this dashboard because again, there are sensitive data here. Here's the list of your birthdays. So you want to, send a happy birthday to employees that has birthdays coming up. This is another report with a line chart and another report with a pie chart and so on. One last example that I would want to show. So again, let me just put a broader range here. So this data here, in this scenario, I am a payroll administrator where I have access to all my reports and to all the employees' reports in here. So I see the employee, this employee, or I see that all my employees on my company. Not all companies allow access to their employees to see those reports because they have the pay stub. But if you would want to give permission to your employees to see the same report, but obviously with so this employee would not have permission to see this data here, right? You can also allow them access to this report, but they would only see data that is relevant to themselves. So let's say here that we give access to this report for this employee, and I'm going to log off from my user, and I'm going to log back in with another user. So see now that this employee does not have access to my dashboard anymore because, sensitive information does not allow this employee. And as well as he only has permission to see one report. Now, if this user executes this report, he's going to put a broader range as well. And if I search, I, as this employee, can only see data from myself. I am not allowed to see data from another employee. So just another way to show data and show how flexible the tool can be. To summarize, we saw that the web reports can provide you with whatever data you need, and you can look at your data in different formats. You can save preferences, and you can export your data into multiple formats. You can also place your reports as widgets on your dashboards for easier, faster, and simplified look at your data. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I do have some questions that have already come in. So the first one is, how long does it take to write new reports in BAASS Web Query?
Again, once we install this query, basic reports come out of the box, reports that we create here at BAASS. But it's not that difficult to write a report yourself. You would need a license. We have different types of licenses, and you would require that license to write your own report.
Does BAASS Web Query work with Sage 2018?
The web reports is not tied to a specific Sage version. We fetch the data from the database directly from your data source. So we don't have restraints on whether it is 2017, 18, 19, 20. So it would work with all versions of Sage.
Am I able to use BAASS Web Query for my history databases in Sage?
Right, that's a very good question. We can create and we help clients here to create reports, very customized reports for that specific client. So yes, we are able to retrieve and show any data that is on your database and present it however you would want to see it. So if you would have a custom application, for example, that has a staging data, and you want to create a report that links both that staging data with your Sage data, we are also able to do that.
And the last question I have here is, can I have the report emailed to me at scheduled times?
Right. So the web reports has an extensions, which is the BAASS alerts that I didn't show here today. But to answer your question is yes, we do have another tool that gets integrated with the web reports, and it is able to send you reports based on your schedule. So if you do want to receive a payroll report every pay period, we would able to do that as well.
It does look like that's all the questions that we have for this session. So I'd just like to thank you again, Fernando, for presenting today.
All right, thank you, everybody.